What apparently is real, some comments made by Dak Prescott at an event Friday night. It was a Children's Cancer Fund gala. It was a gala, rather, to raise money for the Children's Cancer Fund. Covered, I'm getting this from David Moore of the Dallas Morning News. And the question I'm asking is, are you concerned about the Dak Prescott extension situation as it stands with your Dallas Cowboys? Because he's entering the final year of his contract. There's not, according to reporting, not been meaningful discussions about an extension. And with that being the case, Dak Prescott answered questions about that. Obviously, with all of these various events, Aikman was there as well. It's worth noting Tony Romo was there as well. But, you know, with these events that are not football related, but when you're a star, you get out in front of them and media comes, you're understanding that there's going to be these kind of questions. So I doubt that he was unprepared for this. However, there was a few comments that Prescott made that were interesting. For one, Prescott, talked about the fact that, quote, "I'm not trying to be the highest paid," when he was in response to a question about his financial expectations. He did pause, though, and say necessarily. So I'm not trying to be the highest paid necessarily. First of all, like, what's your thought on that? The idea that Dak Prescott is willing to say, I don't necessarily need to be the single highest paid quarterback out there. Does that jive, or are you calling bull junk on that, as Dion would say?
No, that's the way he is. And again, he knows he's a quarterback. And if you're a top 15 quarterback in a league with 32 teams, you will get paid because it's your turn. It has nothing to do with, are you the best? It has nothing to do with insane arm talent. It has nothing to do with how many Super Bowls have you won. It has to do with supply and demand. Supply and demand. It's just that simple. He is a house. He is a house. He is real estate in Highland Park.
Okay, I was like, he has a house? Yes, he does.
As a quarterback, he is real estate.
Okay.
In the most coveted neighborhood in the league. That means you're going to have to pay him because that's where he's located. Well, so he ain't worried about it.
Aikman, I think, sits in a place that is similar to maybe where I sit, where he said, I thought they would have done something with Dak already.
Oh, about the negotiations? Okay.
Yeah, he said, I don't know if they're going to or what the game plan is. Troy Aikman he's spitting bars that I could have penned myself.
Yeah, he's talking about the organization.
I do not understand.
What the hell are they doing and not doing?
Because I don't understand. It does not behoove Dak Prescott to sign a contract at this point. It behooves him to get to free agency and then have multiple people bid against him. Exactly. And so I bring you now to the Dak Prescott comments that were clearly the newsmakers of the weekend saying, quote, "I'm focused on the moment, on the now. If the talks begin and the real talks get to happen, sure, we can talk about getting that done. But in this case, right now, honestly, I'm worried about getting better, being better, more than I am at this moment. Leaving that up to my agent and Jerry at this point. When those talks begin, I'll be more involved." He went further to say, "I'm focused on here right now, where I am. That's how I've always been." And then he said, "I've been in this situation before, so I'm okay. I'm fine in any situation, betting on myself or playing this out." And he talked about how he's been in communication with CD and just he is not worried about these contract negotiations getting done. Are you concerned about that, CA? Do you believe that? Do you agree with that thought process?
Totally agree, and let me explain why. This is what fans and certain media, when they follow a particular narrative, whether it's real or not. Well, if they don't extend him, they don't do an extension now, he's gone. And maybe he wants the security. He's got security from the last extension. When he was a rookie, under the rookie deal, he didn't ask for negotiations. He didn't say, y'all need to take care of me. Look what we've done as a rookie, when he was only making 1 year $2 million. That's the most he ever made as a rookie under that rookie 4th round supplemental pick deal. Right now, he's already got over $100 million. He's already got that. Already got it. But guess what he also knows? Just like the Dallas Cowboys foolishly wouldn't extend his contract until the last minute, they can play that game again and they're going to lose. You can pay him now, you can pay him later. And they've said, we're going to take care of you. We like you being in this position. Guess what a lot of fans and media don't know or don't understand? They know, yes, Todd France, his agent, put in a no-trade clause in the deal. He also put in the extension, no, you cannot franchise tag him. Guess what else you can't do? If you just let him walk because you kept messing with his contract and kicking the can down the road, you think you're still paying Zeke now $6 million and he ain't here? You will be paying Dak Prescott in 2025 $40.16 million. And he's not even here. He knows this. He ain't concerned. Jerry ain't that stupid. Steven might be, but Jerry won't let him do it. So there's, in other words, for everybody says, well, I don't even want him here. Just cut him or let him go. Just let him go. Start all over. Yeah, you're going to be starting all over. $40.16 million upside down. And he knows Jerry's not going to do that.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of when.
That is with as you mentioned, the 2025 season, you still have salary cap underway. And I don't think the tough thing about it is, and I know Michael Gelkin has written a piece about the financial situation, why the Cowboys have been inactive in free agency. And I know that this is a perspective the Cowboys have wanted to be better understood, as we have kind of talked about the lack of free agency, and they talk about the idea of how they've had to kick the can, or how they have kicked the can. I don't know if we want to talk about how, but over time and push salary down the road, and ultimately that comes home to roost. And now you have to, at some point account for that. Are they then in a place where they want to account for all of that? Because we've talked about how Dak Prescott does not, or has a no trade deal or no trade clause, but if you are in a place where you're like, well, we want to fix all their financial situation before we ultimately come back to the quarterback, I don't think that makes sense. Like, you still sign the quarterback, you figure out the other stuff outside of that. It feels like if you want him to be there, understanding that the quarterback is really foundational in his team. If you want to move on from the quarterback, understanding he has a trade clause, you have to then work with him to move him. Otherwise, are you just going to have him walk in free agency, or are you just going to pay him later and then continue doing the kick can thing that you have been doing? Like, if it is indeed we want to fix the kick can situation that has been happening in the past, then doing it again does not feel like the right way of fixing that, by waiting too long to then figure out the cap situation. Am I wrong, or am I it's possible that I'm just seeing this improperly, but that seems insane to me as I'm viewing it in this moment.
This is the Cowboys' insanity, and Michael Gelkin has done a fantastic job breaking down why they're in the mess that they're in. But what he does not do is explain why they allowed this to happen. They allowed this to happen because they want to try to win a Super Bowl. But there's a push-pull going on within the organization. Stephen Jones wants to do it conservatively. Jerry Jones is a wildcatter. He was an oil man. He would have never bought the Cowboys and risked what he had, pushed all his chips in, and he wouldn't have done all those things he had done over the years, including trade for Charles Haley, including signing Deion Sanders. Those are things Stephen was not down for. Stephen's conservative. Jerry is, let's go for it. Jerry is older. Before he retires, before he goes away, he wants to win another Super Bowl. So when they kick that can, this is what Jerry knows. And this is what I've talked about for years. People who think they know about the salary cap, because team building is a sport, they fail to understand that the cap is going to go up tremendously every year. This year alone, it went up. Wow, a tremendous jump. $25 million. I mean, that's significant. Guess what? The owners have to spend $117 billion that they did with those negotiations with the TV streaming deals. They have to. 48.7% of that money has to be split with the union. It's in the clause. So Jerry's like, let's kick this can because the cap keeps going up. Stephen wants the media and the fan base to think the cap is stuck. And every time we kick the can, we're up against the cap. Guess what? The next year, the cap's bigger. Now, is it smart business? Hell no, but guess what? You're trying to convince all these fans who believe in the Cowboys and make it the most valuable franchise in the world, we have a chance. We have a shot. In other words, Jerry says, you're allergic to a rebuild, Stephen. You want to lose this fan base? You want to lose being the number one most valuable franchise in the world? You got to make these fans believe you got a chance at the Super Bowl. So therefore, you cannot say we're going to maybe 5-11 it for 4 years like we did in the early 2000s. That's what Jerry's saying, and that's why this is push-pull going on within the organization. Stephen's saying, I ain't afraid of that. Jerry's like, not before I retire. And guess what? Dak Prescott knows this, and that's why he's like, yeah, right. You think they're going to eat $40 million? And if they do, you think I'm afraid of that? You think I'm afraid of going to another team when I've proven against all odds, being a 4th-round supplemental pick, that I'm not a top 15 quarterback?
Yeah, and look,
I'm just telling what it is.
And I appreciate that. If that is indeed the situation where it is, in some ways, for lack of a better term, a house divided, you need to get your house in order, because ultimately the outcomes of it feels like there are a few outcomes that, whether you want Dak Prescott here or whether you don't want Dak Prescott here, you can take a few ones that make the most sense to me personally. I'm not saying absolutely that they're the absolute right.
Well,
I'm not so bold enough to say that, right?
It's not a house divided. It's the way to do business divided.
No, I mean, but still, you're divided on this particular issue, not necessarily fully divided, but I appreciate the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being the case, right, it feels like there's a few options that you can move to get yourself in a right situation.
Without going 5-11?
And the problem...
Or 5-12 now.
Well, I mean... Regardless, right?
See,
like,
that's
I think
what Jerry's not going to let happen. And Steven's like, I can stomach that.
But that's my thing, is like, figure out how you want to do this ultimately. But there's still a few things, whether you decide what's Jerry's way or Steven's way in this metaphorical that we're talking about here, there's still ways to get that done. And it feels like the thing that I'm concerned about with this is, as this continues, is they're showing us that they're not going to make the reasonable decisions based off of one of those philosophies. They're going to make the unreasonable decision on one of those philosophies. And that's the thing that's frustrating. There's a lot of ways. I had a middle school teacher that used to say, there's more than one way to fry chicken or to cook chicken, right?
I believe that, but
and
guess
so with
what?
that being the case, there are still ways to cook chicken.
It's too late right now. You know why? The only way to solve it is if you say, okay, let's do it Steven's way. Well, guess what? You're going to have some guys leave, or you're going to be a team that's not any good, not even 12-5. We're talking about not even 8-7 or 8-9 rather. It's going to be worse, because as what you're looking at right now, you don't have depth and you're not going to have some stars. So if you say, okay, let's do it Jerry's way, you're going to still be in this vicious cycle of kicking the can down the road. But guess what saves your ass? The salary cap keeps going up. When everybody tries to believe that the salary cap is going to be the exact same amount every single year, only go up like $1 million. No, it goes up 15 to 25 and maybe 30 million because of the streaming rights deal. So that's what Jerry says, Steven, we got to do it this way. And Steven's like, I don't care. The only way it's going to resolve itself is if Jerry retires. He's not going to retire till he's done.
That sounds to me like...
And Dak Prescott knows this, and that's what fans don't understand. And that's what media people who say, well, you know what? Then they're just going to let Dak walk. Jerry's not going to let Dak walk. Steven says, I could do that. And Jerry's like, we're not doing that. Because guess what? You're going to have a franchise that's going to lose its value. And you're going to have a franchise that half the fan base is going to leave because they're going to go ahead and go with the current uniform that's popular. They're going to all be Chiefs fans.
I hear you on all that. And my point ultimately is, if that is where you got to keep Dak Prescott, there's a way to do that makes the most sense, and they're not doing it in the way that makes the most sense. That's the thing that's frustrating me, and that's the concern that I have in all of this, not necessarily even whether he stays
so what's
or
your
whether
solution?
He goes. I mean, well, the solution was to sign him early if he's not going to go. But at this point, you've put yourself in a place where now you're in middle grounds and you're not going to make any right decision, right or left.
Exactly. They're going to pay him one way or the other, whether he's here or not.
And that's my thing is, if you were going to pay him early.